My fellow Americans, we have survived a long football winter together. We were promised a Super Bowl for the ages, and we got a heavyweight champ against a toddler. Since that horrible evening, the NFL draft has been our shining beacon of light, only it was a star that was about 8 light years away. We had to wait an additional 2 weeks for the draft, during which time we descended into our animal natures with epic battles between film and stats guys that were about as fun to watch as that Super Bowl. We came out the other end. We survived. We endured. For 2 nights and a day, we get the glorious sight of pundits trying to fill airtime. We will come to a moment of clarity in which we find out there are other people in the draft besides Johnny Manziel, Jadeveon Clowney, Teddy Bridgewater, and Michael Sam. As far as I can tell, the rest of the dudes at the Combine were extras hired off the street. My own Titans have the 11th pick. Here's to them getting a J.J. Watt and not a Russell Erxleben. That's right, the Saints drafted a kicker with the 11th overall pick in 1979, 2 picks before Kellen Winslow. Good evening, everybody. I am Zach Law, and I have with me Sharona, and we're going to talk about football because we have some sort of event going on tomorrow night. I don't know, what's this event, Sharona?
I don't know. It's been so long since we've had one of these, I might be forgetting what it is. No, finally, we're on the eve of, yes, we're actually going to have a real, live, for real NFL draft. Woohoo!
For real
draft.
And I just want to say tonight, it's kind of coincidence, we're both drinking Abita products. I have a strawberry, and I believe you have an IPA. So,
I have a spring IPA.
And I am prepared tonight. I have a special gift from the in-laws. It's a Titan spatula with the all-important beer opener on the other end. This is the ultimate tool. Like if MacGyver had this, he could have built a nuclear bomb. I'm telling you right now.
I have props too, Zach. I have this is a. These are some of the cards that I got at the games. Here's a Jason McCourty.
Oh yeah, I have that set downstairs. I swear I haven't bought anything Titans related in 10 years. But I always get it.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Don't show Chris Johnson.
No, but I'm gonna show. I'm going to bring this to you because we know how much you love this guy.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've tweeted with T-Rag. Apparently I'm going to be playing beer pong with him and Dano-Mike at some point this weekend. That's not on the schedule. No, it's not.
Here is Mr. Crush Boy himself. Hi, Bernard.
That is the least intimidating Twitter handle ever.
I might sleep with this tonight.
Was that his first choice of names, or was that like the backup? Anyway.
Here we go. Kendall Wright and Mike Griffin. So, see, yeah, I am prepared. I've got all kinds of cards.
So at this point, do you have a feeling about, like, oh, we got to get this guy at 11? Or you're like, let's just get a player in our team. It doesn't, I'm not too crazy about who it might be.
Yeah, I was having this conversation. Now that I am officially a member of the media and trying to, be objective, I'm not all that emotionally invested in, in what they're going to do. With a new regime, I don't really even have a good sense of what they're going to do. I know they've looked at a lot of players. I think I've got maybe some thoughts on who they might pick, who I think that they should pick, which are not necessarily the same things. But they're going to pick a guy, and we're going to talk it to death, and then we're going to see.
That's true. That's one thing about this off season that's maybe different from all the rest, is that we don't know. I mean, the Titans have been considered a kind of boring franchise, or a franchise that's sort of on the boat without a rudder kind of situation. But I like how, Wisenhunt kind of didn't want to talk about it, and they had a press conference, and they did the Jeff Fisher talk a lot, not say anything. I think that's fine, because all we're getting this last 24 hours is this big smoke screen of, oh, there's a rumor that the Rams want to draft Manziel at 2. It's like, oh, they wanted somebody to trade up.
Oh, and let's not forget, Johnny doesn't want to be a Texan. He doesn't want to go #1 overall in the NFL draft because he doesn't want to be a Texan. And he also doesn't want to play for the Jags.
I thought you just said he didn't think he was going to go #1, but at this point, I don't know. Anything's possible in this crazy world of football.
I quit listening to a lot of the draft chatter back in March.
Well, so you haven't been on Twitter then? Because that's pretty much all that's been going on today.
I've been on Twitter. I've mostly just been like, oh, a draft tweet. Okay. I mean, there's some guys. Matt Miller, I pay attention to what he has to say because I like him. I think he does a good job. I don't always agree with him. He picked Anthony Barr for the Titans, and everybody knows I hate that pick for the Titans. But and it's not that I don't like Anthony Barr. I just don't like the pick for the Titans. So
you're not thinking pass rusher, and we got our old linebackers, and that's good enough?
I would like to see them draft a linebacker, but it would not be Anthony Barr because I think they have Anthony Barr and Akeem Ayers. They've got an Anthony Barr. I would like to see them take C.J. Mosley. That's who I would want them to take.
You know what, that broken down linebacker from the SEC, the best conference ever, except
Roll Tide.
I mean, seriously, and they got Lane
Kiffin 2 years in a row. This is 2 years in a row that I've wanted them to draft a Bama player. I don't even know me anymore.
Seriously, yeah. Well, that was Warmack was talking about drafting A.J. McCarron. I'm like, do not draft A.J. McCarron. A.J. McCarron, he's like Tim Tebow, but he can't run. I think that's how the comparison I made. Actually, I listened to there was the Grantland. They do the podcast, and they were talking about the Titans, and they mentioned the theory was good, but the actual name didn't make sense. Like they said, oh, Wisenhunt wants this strong-arm quarterback, like the Derek Carr or the Jimmy Garoppolo, the guy who can throw the ball really hard, but maybe can't play quarterback. And he mentioned A.J. McCarron. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I heard that A.J. McCarron doesn't really have that strong of an arm.
That's the knock on him.
Happened to be the quarterback of a very good team. I mean, isn't he a little bit like David Green, who was the quarterback at Georgia, and he broke Peyton's wins record, but he wasn't really that good. He was in the NFL for a year. So, I don't know. I don't know. I'm okay with Barr. I feel like he's a little bit like our guy, Curse. I mean, obviously, I don't know all the measurables, but he does seem like that guy who has that pass rushing instinct. It's just he hasn't played the position long. And you just don't know theory-wise. Like, do you take the guy who's got the potential and the upside, or you take the guy you know what they are, and you almost forget the fact that these guys are pretty young and they can all develop and grow, and usually defensive guys take a year or two to develop. I mean, they got Hainsworth at 15, and he took a couple of years and one foot stomp to really get his game together. So maybe that's the pick. I don't want him to just have this kind of panic, like we have to get this position or else.
Yeah.
Like when they drafted Jake Locker, because even though they picked their guy, it's like when you have to draft a position, it's like in fantasy football. It's like you feel like you're stuck and you don't have a lot of options. And I want to feel like take the best guy.
I think that with Jake Locker, I don't know that it was so much a panic pick. Oh my God, we need. I
do my jersey rotation. It's too hot in here for me to wear one, so I got my. This was a Vince Young jersey, and I was very happy when I got it because it's a red practice jersey. It's very cute, but I had the nameplate changed to Locker, and I am hoping if Locker doesn't work out, they don't use this number for a while. They pretend it's like retired. Please continue.
But going back to, I actually had a point here. I don't think that it was a panic pick so much as, oh my God, quarterback, we need a quarterback, as I feel like they had just gone through a very painful 4-month time period, roughly. Actually, a little bit more than that. They had the guy that they thought was going to be their the guy that they thought was going to be their franchise quarterback, in Vince Young, throwing his stuff in the stands, having another meltdown. They move on from him, and then they move on from Jeff Fisher. They really needed a face of the franchise. And I think that's what they were looking for more than anything when they took Jake Locker. They thought this is a guy. We need a quarterback. We need a guy who's going to be the face of our franchise, and we like this guy. And Jake is a guy who can be that guy. So I think that more than anything was their thought process, because they really lost all the faces of their franchise in that whole disaster with Vince Young leaving, getting terminated. You're terminated, and then Jeff Fisher, going bye-bye too.
Yeah, it was kind of the disastrous offseason. It was the lockout, and the Titans ended up going in the offseason without a quarterback. It was the end of the Vince Young era. It was the end of the Collins era, and we thought it was like a Vince Young or Jeff Fisher deal. It ended up being both.
Both, I know,
Jeff
right?
Fisher wanted to take a year off, and I don't know, he may have still been paid by the team. But, yeah, Locker is the opposite of Vince Young in that he's definitely going to work hard. He's going to be in the locker room. He's going to be studying
He's going to be in the film
game. He's a grounded guy.
Yeah.
Probably in the ground, injured.
Married, stable, the whole.
It's one of those bizarre things that, the scouting report on him was he has amazing fundamentals, but he seems unable to be very accurate. But I don't know. See, we had the team. We had a Jeff Fisher team the first quarter of last year. At 3-1, should have been 4-0, and limit what your quarterback has to do. I mean, look at the Super Bowl champion. As much as everybody talks about quarterback, it's like they didn't really need Russell Wilson to do that much. That was the point. He had like the 31st most attempts in the league, and that's what the Titans were aiming for. Really good defense, a good run game, strong offensive.
They had a very efficient
quarterback. It didn't have to do that much, and when he had a chance, he did really well. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, and now everybody in the world, maybe not the Titans front office, has kind of written off Mr. Locker, and maybe, just maybe, he has a comeback, because I compared him to Matthew Stafford, and that Stafford was injured his first 2 years, and everybody was like, he can't do it, and then he hasn't missed a game since.
I really would like to believe that the Titans front office is going to give him another year. I think he deserves another year. The injuries are unfortunate. There's no if, ands, or but about it. The injuries were unfortunate. They really killed the team. You cannot understate that. But he was showing such great promise, and I guess I am very much in the minority here, but I just think that when I look at this roster, I don't see quarterback being the big issue that a lot of people think it is. I see other positions being, a big issue, but I just don't. I don't look at and I still scratch my head. Hi, Clipboard Jesus. I still kind of scratch my head over that. But hey, no matter what, you just got to hope that Jake Locker stays healthy and fulfills his promise. I still believe in Tyler Wilson. Y'all know that. If you follow me, if you listen to me, I still believe in Tyler Wilson. So hey.
Speaking of a lack of arm strength, hello Tyler Wilson.
Tyler
round
Wilson,
pick. We'll get into my quarterback of sadness.
Come on, he has a strong arm. But if you believe that,
look at who the Raiders had. They had Terrell Pryor, who doesn't know how to play quarterback at all, and then Mount McGloin, water boy from Penn State, and he couldn't even make the team.
If you're using what the Raiders do as your argument, I'll just take a nap over here.
I don't think Tyler Wilson makes the team. He's no trusty Rusty. I'll just put it that way.
Okay,
Rusty's the best third-string quarterback in NFL history.
If you believe all of that if you believe all of that about Tyler Wilson, why do you think AJ McCarron is a better option? I'm not saying that you do, but I'm saying I
don't want him to touch AJ McCarron. I don't want to stay away. It's weird. It's like we were talking about this whole narrative thing. It's like some players are getting a lot of talk going into the draft, and some are getting almost none. AJ McCarron's one of those guys. they didn't make a big deal about who the Titans brought in for visits and who they didn't. And one guy they didn't bring in was Blake Bortles, and they were going to bring A.J. McCarron in, but he had some kind of illness. So he didn't even show up for the team, and they wouldn't reschedule him, so they didn't seem that hot to see him. But then again, we are an SEC country, so they pretty much should know what he's all about.
They apparently looked at Connor Shaw.
Connor Shaw, yeah. He seemed like one of those really good college quarterbacks. Like he beat the bejesus out of Missouri 2 years ago, and he came off the bench to beat him last year. So he's one of those scrappy college guys who probably won't make an NFL team. But hey, who knows? That's the thing about quarterback is there are about, I don't know, half a dozen guys who could get a shot, and who might not even get a shot as to be the quote unquote camp arm. Remember Chris Mortensen's son, Alex Mortensen? That was one of those. He didn't have good college numbers, and he came into a game and threw like a pick.
He wasn't even a starter in college. He wasn't even a starter in college. It was very funny.
Yeah,
I'm not knocking hustle. I'm not hating. I'm just saying.
Knocking hustle. Yeah, you get in the field in a preseason game, you're like the top, 100th% of all high school football players that are, just even get on a preseason roster is, quality stuff. But sometimes you're like, yeah, this guy didn't have a chance. I mean, Rusty Smith was kind of people were a little scratching their heads over it, but he didn't stay on the team for 4 years, despite the fact that I have as many NFL touchdowns as he does. He was a pick six.
He was a sixth-round draft pick, though, right?
He might have been the best quarterback the Titans have drafted since Aaron McNair. So there you go.
Oh, come on. Now, look, no matter how badly it ended with Vince, and I'm still a little bitter over all that, but, there was so much promise there. If Vince could have gotten it together, there's so much promise there. Oh, hi, kitty cat.
This guy has horrible breath. Chewy. Absolutely no interest in the Titans. How you doing? What up? Chewy would like to meet Matt Waldman's cat, Zook. But I hear Zook's a partially outdoor cat, so that cat would kick your butt so quick. All right, there we go. Hopefully that'll kill the interest for a while.
We'll have to
be part of the very big show.
We'll have to get the princess over here in a minute and let her make her appearance.
I know. Yeah, if we want to continue on the exciting narrative theme, we can always talk about Teddy Bridgewater and how he's absolutely cratered in the past month. I
don't even want to talk about that. I'm scratching my head over that one.
Well, there's two levels to that. There's some of the draft experts have actually dropped him down on their lists, and then there are other people who are just I still think he's the best quarterback, but what I'm hearing is teams have him down on their draft board. And then today, I think it was in the news, his mom had cancer, and he bought her a pink Cadillac, and everybody's giving him crap for that. I'm like, really? They do talk about, I think you mentioned on your show today about players, spending money before they've actually been drafted by an NFL team, and how a pretty low percentage of guys get to that second contract, which is year 5. So you're not going to make that much money. I mean, when you're basically when you enter the draft, you have to spend that 6 months training, and then you have to go see these expensive trainers, and your agent kind of fronts all those costs, and then when it all happens, you're like, oh crap, you have no money. I think it was a story about Ernest Graham, who was he actually had a couple good years with the Bucks, but he had some really expensive draft day party, and he wasn't even drafted, and he was $100,000 in debt and didn't even have a job, and it's man, that's a rough spot to be in.
Well, Vince Young threw a big birthday party. Do you remember that? Borrowed the money for that, $100,000. It was some ungodly amount of money to throw a party, and he didn't have a job.
Well, I'm guessing that Johnny Manziel comes from a family with money, so he has money. But for most guys going to the NFL, this is the first time they've tasted a dollar, except whatever illicit funds. Not that ever happens in the SEC, right?
Oh, never.
Not for Tennessee or Missouri players, anyway.
No, of course not.
But you get in the NFL, especially Vince Young, that was in the crazy first-round pick days when a first-round pick got more money than the best free agent. At least they've kind of fixed that. Like Vince Young got 2 like $10 million bonuses in his first like 4 years.
I think that he had throughout.
So that didn't seem like real money.
If I remember correctly, I could be wrong. If I am, I apologize. But I think throughout the course of his career, he got like $60 million guaranteed in money.
I would say he probably it was like 40 or something. Because I can't remember if that second bonus he got, and that was like before 2010. It was like part of his rookie deal, and they could void it, and they didn't. I don't think he ever got that second deal, but yeah, it's something else because he gets like $10 million check, and then 2 years later, and 2 years later he's trying out for the Bills, and they cut him at the last minute. And last year the Packers had him, and you thought, oh, he's going to make the Packers. I don't have a second quarterback to save their lives, and they cut him, and maybe the Browns will do it again. So it is. I don't know. Maybe he'll. Well, this would be a good segue. Maybe he'll get that shot, or maybe he'll be that guy talking in front of the rookie symposium in a few years, talking about how to save their money. Or he could be like Pac-Man Jones, who I hear is talking for the University of Tennessee. Is that correct?
What's that? Oh yeah,
Pac-Man talking.
Yes.
Unveil my second jersey of the evening.
Butch Jones allegedly, apparently, has plans to bring in one Adam Pac-Man Jones to talk to his players. Very much mixed emotions from this person regarding that. All right, I'm just being real here. Not a fan of it. Don't really want to see it happen. Kind of think Butch Jones might be a little cuckoo for doing that. So
Tennessee coach, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Is this going to be like the first time he's been across state lines?
I am assuming that he has had some contact with Pac-Man because he coached at Cincinnati. And obviously Pac-Man is a Cincinnati Bengal. That would be.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering because he was a West Virginia guy, and he played in Tennessee, but I would think he would never want to be in the state unless they're playing the Titans. I mean, it is impressive. I mean, Vince Young is trying out. He's trying out, and he's like neck and neck with Tyler Thigpen. And yes, we'll get into the quarterback sheet of sadness and discuss, quarterbacks that the guys have drafted. But yeah, it's the fact that it's not just that he's on the Bengals. I mean, he's not making massive money, but he's like gonna be on the team, and he's in his 10th year in the NFL. I mean, who would have put odds on that happening when the Titans got rid of him? And then he had did the Cowboys have him, and they cut him after a year? And it's like, man, how on earth is this guy?
The Cowboys had him. The Cowboys had him. They hired a bodyguard,
security guard, yeah,
for him.
Still got busted.
Well, he got into it with the security guard, allegedly.
Allegedly, yes. We're definitely on the short list of being possibly sued. That's for sure.
Allegedly.
He's allegedly not so awesome.
Allegedly.
Okay. We could transition to a little, perhaps we could call this the Titans therapy segment. I was accused on Twitter, and I know when you're accused on Twitter, it's big time, of being extraordinarily negative about the Titans.
Ah. Who accused you of that?
Oh, that was one Rumford Johnny, who was a little salty at times. I mean, he did a mock draft, and it was like 2-round draft, and had a bunch of trades, and I actually thought I liked his idea. He mentioned that the Titans would trade down from 11, and I don't even remember who they got, but then they traded into the end of the first round to take Derek Carr with Teddy Bridgewater on the board, and I was like, you know what? I don't like Derek Carr to the Titans, but I could see it happening, and for some reason he took that as me like being negative about his draft. And really, if you're doing a mock draft, I'm not going to mock you too hard for it, because really at the beginning of the second round, I'm going to start not knowing who these guys are. But yeah, he kind of gave me this, you're always negative about the Titans. And I'm like, all right, Mr. Patriots fan, Remember what it was like in the 80s when your team was really pathetic? I mean, come on. Whatever you do is okay. And the Titans, I mean,
He's, he
it's
seems
been a rough
pretty
5 years.
He seems pretty cool. I would hate that trade. If they trade out of the first round and pick up extra picks and then burn those picks to trade back into the first round to take Derek, whatever, that Carboy.
Yeah.
I'm going to clown them endlessly. Endlessly.
Well, the point that was brought up, and I don't even know, do NFL's teams think that? It's like all of a sudden this year we remembered, hey, the CBA changed in 2011, and rookie draft picks had that fifth-year option. So the idea was, well, if you trade up to the first round, then you get your fifth-year option on your player, which it's not a super bargain like the Titans. If they were going to give Locker that option, they were going to have to pay him like $15 million next year, which seems crazy. But yeah, it's like I'm trying to think of what the Titans could do to make me like very excited about the team, and it's like not until the season starts and I see them playing well will I really get revved up. So it was a little bit like, yeah, they traded up for Justin Hunter last year and they had that pick that they lost, and it's like you forget about that other side. If they trade away to get into the first round, they're getting rid of their first round pick next year.
So there isn't a single player in this draft that the Titans could take that would make you excited?
I would really like to see them. If they took Teddy Bridgewater at 11, I would be intrigued. Do I put it that way? I don't know. I mean, because we had this long off season, because I'm always focusing on fantasy football, I'm excited because I traded up for like a second rookie pick, and I'm like, I'm going to get Sammy Watkins or I'm going to get Mike Evans, and everybody's been talking him up. But because we've had so much time, now people are starting to say, well, here are the flaws, and the same thing with Bridgewater. Like, it's just so much. Anytime you pay attention to any player, you're going to find the warts. And I'm like, I don't know. I still think he's, got the potential to be a good guy. And, even if, let's say, Jake Locker has a really good year, then that's not a horrible problem to have next year. It's like you got this quarterback you might be able to trade, and you got this young guy as well. I mean, I know Clipboard Jesus would be upset, but he's okay. He's been a third stringer before. He's used to it. But the question is, am I overdoing the negativity? I don't know. I just feel realistic, and the last 5 years have not given me a great feeling of warmth. And maybe the fact is we had it maybe too good at first, because when the Titans first moved to Nashville, I mean, they go to the Super Bowl their first year.
Yeah.
And they had a team that was good enough to win 2 or 3 Super Bowls in that era. The 2000 team was the best team in the NFL.
Yeah.
They were in the championship game a couple of times. And in 2008, they had the best team in the NFL, but they just got a little bit...
Crapped the bed?
Yeah, they got a little nervous in that game. I mean, they were just a little bit better than the Ravens, but they didn't really take their chance. Once they scored that first touchdown, they were like, oh, offense is over. I mean, when you go down from Chris Johnson to the Lendale White, you're not exactly going to, scare the opposition.
But if they don't turn the ball over 2 times in the red zone, they win that game. They just win that game. And, the 2 turnovers they were just killers. So, but I agree with you, and this is a topic that we're going to discuss on the radio show. I do think that Nashville fans in general are spoiled. Not only did the Titans have
they had
a lot of success from 99 to really 2003. 2004 was a terrible year. They sort of worked through those. 2008 was good. And then, the Preds were so good for so long. So, in terms of having, local, sports, Uvandy was good in basketball for a while. Belmont's been good. They've definitely had a lot of, success here in
Vanderbilt football, 2-game winning streak against Tennessee. Oh, sorry. Too soon. Sorry. Apologize.
Zach, I'm going to have to agree with Johnny. You are a big hater.
It's true, but I gotta say how I feel. It's just, we're missing that player with interest. Like Chris Johnson was that guy in like 2009, but since then, I like Jarrell Casey. I mean, I feel like there's hope. It's just weird because they have McCourty, who's like a really good cornerback, but no one ever throws the ball his way, so he never. They're like, oh, he has 6 interceptions the last 3 years. I'm like, what are they throwing the ball 10 times his way? He's actually become that shutdown corner. So it's like, where's the playmaker? I mean, problem with Pollard is he's played well, but he gets so many fines and penalties that it's like that's what people notice, which is not his whole game, right?
Kendall Wright, are you not excited about Kendall Wright?
Problem is he's not scoring touchdowns. That's the only thing. He's catching a lot of passes, but he had 2 touchdowns last year. It's very weird because he was this downfield threat at Baylor.
Delaney Walker was one in the top 5 of tight ends last year, scored a bunch of touchdowns for a tight end. You not excited about him?
Well, I defer to you on your experience tight ends. But, you were on the Delaney train.
I love Delaney. Everybody knows it. I love Delaney. I think that he was one of the, along with Pollard, one of the best free agency pickups of the last few years.
Well, it did work out because they basically paid Delaney like about half of what Jared Cook got, and Delaney is, I would just say, I don't know anything about Jared Cook as his personality, but I'm just guessing he wasn't what we call a locker room leader. So, you get the leadership, you get the tight end, a two-way tight end, a guy who could block and catch and do all that good stuff. I guess.
Got an every down tight end.
He kind of drops because you got to be an every down tight end. You can't be an occasional down tight end. That's just not right. Am I right? I'm right.
How do you feel? Let me ask you this, Zach. I saw on ESPN, I was reading about the Jets, I think, one of those teams, and saw that the local ESPN blogger picked Eric Ebron as the Titans' number 11 overall pick. How do you feel about that? How would you feel about that? A tight end at 11.
Well, would we party over that? It seems like the offense, you feel good about the receivers. You don't necessarily feel good about the running backs, but you definitely can hit that position later. Maybe the whole Bill Belichick, 2 tight end thing isn't bad because I know Ebron isn't an all-world blocker, but to have him in the game with Walker at the same time, then you could be a versatile team. Like you don't know if you're going to run or pass. Like when Jared Cook was in the game, you knew we were going to pass the ball. That was one of the downsides. Is I think they keep talking about defenses needing to be more multiple. Well, the offense can be that way as well. And I can't remember which beat writer was talking about the Titans could put Kendall Wright in the slot one play and then Eric Ebron the next, and it's like who can cover both of those guys? Like that's a matchup, nightmare. It's just kind of early for a tight end. Like I know Vernon Davis is the last guy drafted that high in it. He's not that kind of prospect, but he's definitely ahead of the rest of the pack. So it would be intriguing. I would do the give it the 2 beard stroke. Interesting, intriguing. So yeah, he's in that range. They got the bar guy that you don't like. I don't know what the deal. No Pac-12 guys. Eric Ebron, when he in North Carolina, was that who Tennessee beat, or did they lose to? I can't remember. In whatever bowl they played in 7 years ago.
I'm going to give a big thumbs down to that pick. I don't like the pick, and it's not
Where
that
can I get that gong? That's awesome.
I don't, and it's not that I'm hating on him. I think that he's a nice player. I don't think that it's good value for the Tennessee Titans at 11. I really
don't. Who cares about value? Get a player that helps the team.
Well,
does it really matter if you get a guy at 11 who you're supposed to get at 20 if he's a good NFL player? I don't know.
I'm not talking about a reach. I'm talking about a guy who can come in and play more snaps, have a bigger impact.
What do you like? You like that Alabama linebacker? Who else do you like?
You're sort of
out there.
You're sort of you're getting a guy that okay, I'll be generous. He might play 1/2 of your offensive snaps. Are you
Chris
better
Johnson
served?
played half the snaps his rookie year. He was all right.
Are you better?
Whoa.
He played a lot more than that. You're tripping.
Fewer carries than Lendell White. I mean, because Lendell White, I mean, obviously, I mean, Hall of Fame bust is coming. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, will they play two times? Well, they do play, Craig Stevens a lot. I don't know what happened to him. He was like this great blocker, and he had actual. I made a joke about him being slow, and somebody's like, "No, he ran like a 4.6." I'm like, "Okay," I never used him downfield. I do remember him having a long catch against the Browns one game, but that's probably because nobody covered him because he's Craig Stevens, right? I mean,
He struggled last year. There's no doubt. He had that, I think, a concussion. He got his bell rung in a game
you got
pretty
the bell.
early on, like maybe game 6, game 5, game 6, something like that. And he really kind of struggled to come back from that. So, his drop off in play in 2013 shocked me. It was really surprising to me. You've got Taylor Thompson, who's shown a lot of promise. So I don't know. I think that you can get a guy to do the things that you want to do with Eric Ebron later in the draft, or even as I mean, they were so excited about Jack Doyle, and he was an undrafted free agent last year.
I don't know if excited is that great a word, but he did. I mean, he played for the Colts, so he made a team. Yeah, he was the undrafted free agent and done good. It seems like the Titans have that, history with LeGarrette Blount of just not terribly often they get an undrafted guy to do something, and then he ends up on another franchise.
Yeah.
But all right, fine. We won't draft a tight end. I'll talk to Webster. I got him on a horn, But I don't know. I mean, tomorrow night we got this event at LP Field, and I'm going to be there, and I think you're going to be there, and I believe Mr. Gunnels from MCM will be there, and then probably a couple other people I know on Twitter will be there. We're going to tailgate for this. That'll be awesome.
I am planning on being there, as long as I am not coming down with something, which I don't. I'm feeling a lot better than I did a couple of hours ago. A couple of hours ago, I was like, crap, this is not good. I feel a lot better now. Maybe it's the beer.
I could totally be your fill-in guest host on Friday on your show. I mean, I know all about basketball. That dude shot the ball on the hoop. It was pretty cool.
Well, speaking of MCM, we're going to have Jimmy Morris on the show Friday to talk some Tennessee Titans and to critique the first-round pick and maybe give some predictions on what they do in the second round and on Saturday.
You get the Jimmy on? Yeah,
we're going to get the Jimster on.
One guy I haven't met. I met Dan O'Mite. I swear, I thought I met. That's right. August was at that scrimmage. I met Gunnell. So I met like a bunch of people, but I haven't met him. I'll make sure he actually exists. Right?
He does exist. I promise.
I mean, sure he's on Twitter, but who isn't? All
right. All the cool kids.
So how do I get the most out of my Nashville weekend? Now, I'm going to LP on Thursday. On Friday, I'm meeting Tim Stafford at the Neighbors, which is co-owned by former Titans special teams ace Donnie Nicky.
Donnie Nicky
was on the franchise about 5 years too long, but hey, he had a nice little career there.
He had those pictures of Fisher.
That must have been it, yeah, because that's some good ribs. I'll say the ribs. Ribs with thumbs up. Of course, he said, I was like, hey, are we going to stay for the second and third round? He's like, well, I'm going to leave as soon as the Titans make their third pick. And I'm like, well, I have great news for you. The Titans don't have a third pick, so you could leave after like 10 minutes because they'll make their second pick and be done. That's assuming they don't make any trades.
Right.
And I don't know. It seemed like one thing with the Titans is it didn't seem like they ever make a lot of trades. But, last year they traded up for Hunter, and they traded that pick to get was it Thompson a couple years ago, and they made that weird trade to get Scott Solomon.
Yeah, they traded up for Scott Solomon.
Was on the team for a whole year, and is I think out of the league now, but seventh round pick. Right?
He was on. Who did he play for last year? He was on a roster last year.
You know stuff.
I do.
Where every player is.
If I thought hard about it, I could tell you who he played for. I want to say I want to say he was on Philadelphia's roster, but I think I'm wrong on that. And by the way, I do want to say you were right. $26 million on Vince Young. His contract was $60 million.
That's a lot of money, huh?
Lots of moolah.
A lot of money. Well, I decided to. I pulled up my quarterback sheet of sadness. I decided, was it 2 days ago, to look at every team's quarterback situation and also look at who they've drafted in the last 10 years, just to prove the point that every team has made a dumb quarterback pick in the last decade. Now, you could say that the Colts were the exception because they've basically had 2 first-round for number 1 overall picks in the last 15 years, which is kind of sad. Although they have drafted such winners as Chandler Harnish, Curtis Painter, and Jim Sorge, who actually, I feel like Jim Sorge was in the NFL for 7 years as Peyton's backup, and then he was Eli's backup. I think one of the years they won the Super Bowl, which is just crazy. But all this whole quarterback thing of sadness tells me is that most quarterbacks in the NFL are first-round picks. That's kind of the way it goes. Yes. And is it the first-round pick because they're the best guys or just because they get a chance? If you're a backup quarterback in the NFL, you don't get to practice. You don't really get a lot of instructions. So are you really gonna have a chance to improve your game? You're probably just gonna be as good as you've been your whole career. That's what it seems like to me. I mean, I just looked at the Titans and who they've drafted in the past. They've only drafted 4 quarterbacks in the last 15 years. They drafted Jake Locker in 2011. They drafted Rusty Smith in the 6th round of 2010. They drafted Vince Young at 3rd overall. And we all know the story about how I think the scouts liked Jay Cutler best, and Jeff Fisher and the defensive coordinator liked Matt Leinart, who, I don't know, maybe he would have been decent. And then the owner said Vince, and they took Vince. And then, of course, we have the All-Pro Kevin Daft drafted in the 6th round of 1999. I recall, I think one year I had a Madden game, and I actually had him on the field because the Titans were winning so well in the Super Bowl, because Madden's very realistic, as you know.
Right, I do all my analysis through Madden.
You do? Was that one of your games? Because, you're a gamer.
I am a gamer. I'm not a big Madden gamer. That was a joke.
I played it. I think I had it. And Dante Culpepper was on the cover, and I don't know. That might have been the 90s.
Do you still believe that there's a Madden curse? Is there still a Madden curse?
Who was on the cover last year? Was that Calvin? He seemed to do okay.
I thought AP broke it. Didn't AP break it? Or AD?
Somebody did. I swear that Eddie George was on the cover, and he had a good year, but then the next year was when he got that. He had some kind of foot injury, and it really slowed him down. He never was that studler. I mean, you look at his career numbers, Eddie George, and it's he's in the 3-6 range, starting year 3. So yeah, it's one player a year, so it is a tough one. I mean, I know didn't Vic tear his ACL? I seem to recall I was actually at the game when he did that, sitting next to the guy who drafted him in a fantasy league. Oops. It's what you get, man. It's what you get. But just, I mean, if you look at the whole quarterback of sadness setup, we can look at a team like the Bills. In the past 10 years, they traded up in 2004 to get J.P. Lossman, who was bad. In 2007, they took Trent Edwards in the 3rd round, who was mediocre for a while.
I thought Trent Edwards was going to be good. Anyway, go ahead.
Last year they drafted E.J. Manuel 16th. And that's another thing that came up that doesn't get enough play. People were posting today what a lot of experts were saying last year around this time. And there are people like Jason LaConfort saying that Geno Smith was a top 5 pick. Geno Smith going into last year's draft, everybody thought he was going to be taken really early. And he didn't go till the middle of the 2nd round. So that's one thing to say about the draft tomorrow, is that we can say we know it's going to happen, but there's going to be some crazy stuff that we cannot predict, which is why it's entertaining for us. And I know you don't like the breakup, but it's kind of almost nice to go, oh, we're just going to have the 1st round. And I remember waiting whenever they started the draft at 9 in the morning, and each team had 15 minutes, and they took 15 minutes. It was insane. Like the first round took like 4 hours, and now they have the 10-minute clock. So the first round, I think it starts at 8, and it'll be over by 10 o'clock. So it's not bad. I know it's in bite-sized pieces, and hey, it gives you stuff to talk about on your radio show besides baseball and basketball. So I mean, bullet dodge there, right?
We talk hockey.
We talk hockey. No, that's right. Yeah, the
There's a
Penguins
lot
are
of
still in there.
there's a lot of big news in hockey right now. Fun stuff.
There it is.
Mhm.
I know guys are beating on each other. That's always fun. I saw some team from Minnesota was still in there. I'm like, Minnesota's got a team. That's cool.
It's the Stanley Cup playoffs. Hey, Nashville hired a hockey coach. They are no longer coachless.
That's good. So you're a hockey person, huh?
Yep.
I even have trouble watching, even though I'm from Pittsburgh, and I watched some.
Pens are doing good.
What was it? The Blackhawks, because I have a friend who's from Chicago, so we watched some of that. He had people from Chicago in town, so I got some Goose Island beer, and we went to town, and I think they ended up winning. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it is a fun sport. It's just it's not football. Do you know who was drafted in the first round in hockey? Who cares? Oh,
I know who the Preds drafted, Seth Jones.
Oh, there you do the draft?
Well, that was last year. They'll be doing a draft in June.
Yeah, I was thinking like comparing the other drafts, like the baseball draft. I think they still do it by like conference call, but I mean, there is a difference. Like with baseball, they're drafting like high school guys. Nobody's heard of them, and even if college guys, you've barely heard of the best guys. So it's hard to get that excited about it. And I think they can even draft guys from Canada. And there's like 54 rounds. I remember the Chicago White Sox, the general manager drafted his daughter one year, like in the 52nd round. That's how I accept, how serious they take it. And I think wasn't Russell Wilson drafted by the Rangers, and he actually showed up for spring training because he, I think he might make a few more bucks in football though. But
Yep. Speaking of the Seahawks, they just they've locked up their lockdown secondary.
Yeah, they're figuring their stuff out. Like you saw, because they had all these rookie guys that were eligible, and you're like, well, what are they going to do? Like they're going to be up against the cap because they had to sign Earl Thomas, they had to sign Richard Sherman, and next year Russell Wilson and who's that linebacker? Bobby Wagner. They were like both eligible for extensions, and it's like, are they going to be able to afford all that money? But yeah, Richard Sherman got paid. He's like a 5th-round pick, so his salary went from like $1 million to like $15 million. Yeah. And not only that, the important number is
straight cash, homie.
Guaranteed money, $40 million guaranteed in 4 years. Yep. I was wondering about the totals because Scott Shields was signed by the Packers to a 4-year, $39.5 million deal, and I thought that set the bar for Werner, and Werner didn't get anywhere near that money. But I was like, Richard Sherman's going to get a lot more than Scott Shields, and we found that out. So yeah, what's the deal? I mean, speaking of clipboard Jesus, the Seahawks traded for him for like a 2nd-round pick like 4 years ago, and now they can do no wrong. It's crazy. What's happened? Can the Titans? Maybe you can turn around quick. So maybe the Titans.
They also traded for Matt Flynn. They also got Matt Flynn. They got lucky. They hit on some guys later. They took they took Russell Wilson in the 3rd. They hit on him. They took Richard Sherman in the 5th. They hit on him. Doug Baldwin was an undrafted free agent. They hit on him. When the Titans were good, they were doing that. Cortland Finnegan was a 7th-round draft pick. They were hitting on. They were getting lucky to hit on guys. They weren't necessarily doing the best job in the 1st and 2nd rounds, but they were hitting on other guys.
Yeah, that's the important part of the NFL. You get those rookies, and they're in those 4-year deals, and it's like they're very cost protected during that time, and then you have to make the extraordinarily difficult decision of making that extension. Like who are the guys that you're going to give the big bucks to? Like the Titans, I swear the defensive linemen on their team made like combined $100 million signing with other teams for
Yeah.
years because of Jim Washburn, and they almost never re-sign those guys. And it's like you got to know. I mean, even the Patriots, they almost never give their guys like big extensions. Like if they sign a guy, they're like this is the guy, and they make occasional miss like on Aaron Hernandez, but I think most of us did. But once you target who are those guys who are the difference makers, and you make sure to lock them down, and you make sure those guys don't get into their last year without a contract, unlike one Jake Locker. But hey, if he has a good year, he's going to be compensated, I think, just fine.
Yeah, and another thing too, the Titans did really well during those years were in bringing guys in who really fit well within their system and played well, like your David Thornton. Your David Thornton came from Indianapolis. Chris Hope from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Algie Crumpler, he was only a Titan for 2 or 3 years, 2 years maybe. But he made their offensive line. He was like an extra offensive lineman out there at the tight end position and could catch too. And so, they really brought in some guys who helped their team. They haven't had as much success with their free agency. Delaney Walker and Bernard Pollard obviously were big hits. And while I like Cam Wembley, I don't know that. I think that he's going to be a lot better in the new system, and I don't think that he was as bad as people think in the old system.
Terrible.
But it was
Terrible.
a lot. Oh, hush! It was a lot of money for for what they for what they got, and then you've got they brought back Antonio Johnson, a guy that they tried to another guy they tried to stash on their practice squad a few years ago, ended up on the Colts, and so they've done some good things, but they've also they've had some misses too.
Well, one thing we're definitely going to get from this draft is we're going to get an idea of like what direction they're going to take. Like if they take linebacker or linebackers, and they're looking to revamp that side. And if they take a guy like an Aaron Donald at pick 11, then that he might be their nose tackle, and maybe Jarrell Casey's going to be more of an end. So it'll give you some indication. Like, will they take a cornerback first? I mean, I still think they like the guys they have, and they're going to stick with that. But maybe that's the best pick they have. I mean, I don't know if they feel like they have to draft a quarterback like in 2011 because they didn't even have anybody on the roster. But if the guy's there, take a chance.
That's what I think. I mean,
at some point they're taking a running back, and we'll see who it is.
I think that legitimately they are in a position to pick a guy who's going to be, an impact guy, and they've got to, they've got some decisions coming up. Bernard Pollard is on another he was on a 1-year deal last year. He's on a 2-year deal this year. Michael Griffin, his contract continues to escalate. It would not shock me. See, I think that there's a better chance of them trading out of the number 11 spot, maybe dropping back and taking a guy like Calvin Pryor later in that first round. It would not surprise me if they didn't go defensive back, and it would surprise me even less if they went safety.
Well, it does seem safety's kind of like tight end. They don't usually get drafted that high, but the benefit of a good safety, as we saw in the Super Bowl, really helps because the
Cam Chancellor was awesome.
Yeah, Seattle, I think they traded a pick with the Broncos, who drafted some really small cornerback who sucked and was out of the league in 2 years, and then the Seahawks got that first-round pick with Earl Thomas, and they got Cam Chancellor as almost like a linebacker, and they got him like in the 5th round. So, yeah. They had that young duo lined up quick, so maybe, well, you don't like the Alabama guy? Ha-ha, Clinton Dix, one of the greatest football names in history.
Yeah, no, I definitely
him
do.
And Pryor.
I definitely do like him. He's more of a free safety. I think everybody has their own opinion about this. There's so much you could do with
yours is right.
Well, mine is my mind, and so yeah, I'm gonna think that I'm right. I'm always right. Little Miss can't be wrong.
You said think.
So anyway, no, I would love Hashan, haha, Clinton Dix.
Let's just get an Alabama team. There
Ain't
any
that
Tennessee
right?
guys? Oh, Justin Hunter. That's right. Yeah, Justin Hunter. Oh, believe it. Yeah, later pick. I mean, the
See, I'm
quarterbacks
excited
kind of
about
muddled.
Justin Hunter. I think there's a lot to be excited about Justin Hunter going into 2014. He's put on some weight. Hopefully he's prepared to dominate.
Not hang with Damian Williams because he's on the Dolphins. What?
Yeah.
Well, gosh, look at that. We're almost through another hour of football talk. It's hard to believe this sort of stuff can possibly happen. So, Sharona, tell everybody what's happening with you. What you got going on in the next 4 days? Is there some kind of event happening, perhaps?
Well, catch me at 10 o'clock in the morning, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time on Game Over with Zach and Sharona on Yahoo Sports Radio. We're going to spend the next couple of days paying attention to the NFL, talking about some NFL drafts. So stay tuned to that. And you can follow me on Twitter at Sports by Sharona. And I'll be back with Zach next week, and I'm sure that we might have some things to talk about considering what's going on over the next couple of days.
Yeah, we'll have actual new players on the team. That's right, and we'll be together in person tomorrow. This week I did an interview with Patty Cakes, Miss Cakes, as she calls herself.
I got to check that out.
So we got to talk a little bit about Jeff Fisher's magic mustache and what the Rams will do in the post-Fisher era, because, come on, give me a break. But anyway, yeah, we'll be in Nashville this weekend. I may just do some kind of long blog post about my weekend of Nashville.
You should live blog your weekend. You definitely should live blog your weekend.
Well, the only problem is I'm going to be in LP Field on Thursday, which has historically bad Wi-Fi. So, yeah, I was thinking, just totally avoid Twitter in any case on Thursday because it's going to be insane, and just, post every morning about what happened. Because it would be kind of cool to do little mini interviews with people as the draft progresses, because we'll be with a bunch of Titans fans and football fanatics. And that's really the point. It's just fun to get in person with people that you have, in some cases, only seen on the Twitters.
Yep.
So, yeah, full Nashville all weekend. I'll be there through the weekend, and then I'll be back in Atlanta on Monday, and we'll keep it going because we have new players for the Titans. We have undrafted free agents, and the season will begin in a mere 17 months or 3 or 4, depending on how you do your calendar. Unlike Game of Thrones, winter is not coming, summer is coming, and then fall is coming, and more football, and hopefully another victory by the Missouri Tigers over the Tennessee Volunteers.
Yeah, but you know what? The boys of summer will be back in July for training camp.
Exactly. Practice. We love practice.
Yeah.
You'll probably be there every day, right?
Yep. Every day. All right.
Well, anyway, it's been lots of fun. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Thanks, Chewy, for the cat cameo. We get one pet a week at least. That's a promise to you, fair listener. Anyway, Zach Law on the Twitters, and we will chat with you next week. Adios, muchachos.
Bye-bye.